Assalamu alaikum. A very good afternoon, dear students. So, before getting started with another lecture of English, let's just take a glimpse of a previous lecture. So, we started our previous lecture with the topic history of novel, right? And in that topic, we discussed certain subtopics. So, in that, firstly, we discussed the two major gifts of 18th century. So, what was the two major gifts of 18th century? The first was periodical essay and the another one was novel. And then later we discussed the definition and meaning of periodical essay and of the novel. Then later we also talked about why novels were not prevalent before 18th century, and we discussed what was the reasons behind that, right? That how lower class and middle class families, how they were unable to afford those books which was based on romance and love stories, which was out of their reaches. So that's what the issue that they had to face. Like, they were hardly living their own life, and then if you ask them to buy a certain book which is of their which is like no use of for them, and which is something like out of which they can't get any knowledgeable stuff, nothing informative or something like that, so obviously they are not gonna be interested in buying those books and novels. So those were the reasons, that the topics that novelists were writing on, so those were not of the interest and use of the middle class and lower middle class families. Only the higher class families were taking interest in reading those novels. So that was the major issue somewhere. Then later we discussed about how novels became the most dominant literary genre. So we also discussed about it, the reasons behind that, that later novelists realized that we need to talk about something productive, something like which should be beneficial to the readers, and they should feel relieved after reading the novel. So that's what they realized, and they started writing on something very productive, or something which should be useful, and somehow it should give a relief to the readers, if not for a lifetime, but at least for the particular time when they are reading it. They should enjoy the reading, they should feel it, and they should relate to it. And that's what they started focusing on. And then the novels started getting popularity among the readers. And we also discussed about the famous novels and their authors. And after that, we also discussed about the 20th century's novelist who introduced modern topics, innovative styles, and techniques. Obviously, if we are doing something, so we cannot do that same thing in a same manner for so long. Obviously we need to change the trend somewhere or somehow, because whatever it is about, even if you talk about the dressing sense, or the lifestyle, or the dressing style, basically if we talk about, so is it gonna be same, the trend we are following right now or these days, is it gonna be there in 2025? No, not at all. It will be completely changed that time. And that's what it is all about, that one kind of if we talk about any certain thing or any particular thing, so the trend of that particular thing cannot be same forever. Somewhere somehow it has to be changed, and there will be some people who will be the reason behind that change. So that's what happened in the novel also, that the trend that the novelist had been following for so long, that they wanted to change somewhere, and they tried to put some innovative topics in front of the readers, and some of the modern topics, innovative styles and techniques they introduced in the world of novel and literature. Then later we also discussed about the contribution of female novelist. Now let's get started with today's topic. So Today's topic that we are going to start with is Indian scenario. We discussed about so many authors, right? But we have not discussed about the Indian authors or Indian novelists yet. So now that's what we are going to start with today. Today's topic is Indian scenario. So, the very first novel which was written in English in India was Rajmohan's Wife, which was written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. And it was the very first novel which was written in English by an Indian. Okay, so you have to remember this, a very informative thing for you all, for all of us, which we need to know. Okay, so next topic that we need to discuss, novelists who discussed nationalistic and social issues in their main framework. Obviously, you know, it's not just about one topic that we need to cover when it comes to writing. We have to cover so many things, and so many aspects are there to be covered by the writer. So when we talk about the novel writing or the novelist, there were few of the novelists who mainly focused on nationalistic and social issues. Obviously, whatever the period we talk about, either it's about 18th century or 19th century or whatever it is about, even in the 2020, is there any of the century where there were no issues in terms of social life or nationalistic thing? When we talk about, is there any of the age or any of the period where there were no issues? Obviously not. The issues gets it keeps changing. It's not like when we go to the to the period before independence, there were certain issues that we were facing. Before independence, there were the issue of Britishers, right? The time when they were dominating on Indians, they were ruling over Indians. So at that time, the main concern for Indians were to make our country free from the domination or from the rule of the Britishers, right? So at that time, that was the main concern, and that's what the writers or the authors focused on writing, those topics, that how we can make our country free, and how we need to provocate our Indians that they should realize what are our rights and basic needs and everything. So that's what the you know thing what we need to understand when it comes on writing. So the topics keep changing by the time. It's not going to be same all the time, and that's what the same comes with the issues also. When it comes to the issues, all the times one issue cannot be there. Maybe that issue will be solved, and then later after few days there will be some another issue that we need to discuss, right? So but we have to discuss it somehow or somewhere, right? So there were some of the authors or the novelists who discussed the nationalistic and social issues in their writings, and those were the here are some of the names of those authors. So the first name that comes in our mind is Mulkraj Anand, and here are some of his writings or some of his novels. The first is Untouchables. We all can understand easily that what the title means, right? So through the title we can get a basic idea at least, right, that what he must have discussed in that novel. Then later he wrote about Coolie, and then he written another novel which is Across the Black Waters. Now coming to the another novelist, that is R.K. Narayan. This is a very famous name in the world of novel and literature. And when it comes to R.K. Narayan, So the very first name that comes in any of the readers, the readers who knows about R.K. Narayan and who read a lot about him or his writings. So the very first thing that will come or that will pop up in their minds will be the first writing or the very important writing, that will be the Man Eater of Malgudi. This is a very famous work done by the R.K. Narayan. And coming towards another work of him, that is The Guide and The English Teacher. Moving towards the another novelist, that is Raja Rao. Now, when we talk about Raja Rao, there are some of his very famous novels. So, we will discuss few of the novels written by him. The very first is The Serpent and the Rope, and the second one, The Cat and the Shakespeare, the Chess Masters and his moves. So, here are some of the novels written by Raja Rao. Now, moving towards another topic, that is novelists who changed the current of Indian English novel through their work. Now, as we even just before few minutes we discussed about the trend or changing the trend, right? So that's what the thing we need to understand here, that there were few of the novelists who tried to change the current of Indian English novel, or we can basically say that the trend which was there previously, they tried to write something different from that. They try to bring some new topics. They try to bring some of the new concepts in the world of novel and literature. So the names, when we talk about the current of Indian English novel, so the names that comes in our mind are, here are few of the names. So the very first name that comes in our mind is Anita Desai, and here are some of the writings of Anita Desai. Fasting Feast, the another one is Clear Light of Day, and In Custody. So here are some of her writings. Now moving towards the another novelist, that is Nayanthara Sehgal. Now when we talk about Nayanthara Sehgal, here are some of her writings and novels. Rich Like Us, The Day in Shadow, Mistaken Identity. So these three novels written by Nayanthara Sehgal. Moving towards the another novelist, Arun Joshi. So here are some of his novels: The Foreigner, The City and the River, Eyewitness, Kashmir. Moving towards the next novelist, that is Manohar Malgonkar, and the writings of him are as followed: The Devil's Win, Distant Drum, Dropping Names. So these are the names of the novel which is written by Manohar Malgonkar. Novelist who added new features to the Indian English novel. Obviously, again the same topic comes, the change, right? So there are some of the Indian novelists who added some new features to it, as we previously also discussed about it, right, in our previous lecture also, about new features and innovative topics and styles in writings. So here are some of the very famous names who were who added new features to the Indian English novels. So the first name that comes in our mind is Amitav Ghosh. This name is a very prevalent or very famous name when it comes to the novel. And especially when it comes to Amitav Ghosh, the very first novel which comes in our mind is The Glass Palace. This novel is a very famous novel written by him. And another, The Hungry Tides, and the next one is The Shadow Lines. These are the three of his novels. Coming to the next novelist, Vikram Seth. Now, the very famous work done by him is A Suitable Boy, The Golden Gate, Two Lives. These are the three very famous novels written by Vikram Seth. Now, Upamanyu Chatterjee. When it comes to his novels. So here are very famous novels of him, that is The Last Burden, Way to Go, and the another one is Fairy Tales at 50. So, the recent years dazzling performers of Indian English novels. So, when it comes to the recent year and the dazzling performance have been done by the Indian English novelist. So, these are the very famous names that comes in our mind, and the very, like something we can say that very productive work have been done by them, and they have come up with a very interesting topics also that needs to be discussed. So the very first name that comes here is Salman Rushdie. All of us must have heard about this name because this name itself is a very famous name. So the work that is done by him, The Golden House, and another is Shame, and the another very famous work done by him is Imaginary Homelands. Now coming towards another one, that is Arvind Ediga. Again, a very famous name, and a very famous novel that is written by Arvind Ediga is The White Tiger, a very famous novel. Then coming towards another is Selection Day, and the next is The Last Man in Tower. Coming to the another novelist, that is Arundhati Roy. So the famous works done by her are as follows. So the first one is The End of the Imagination. That is a very famous work done by Arundhati Roy, and The Cost of Living, and another one is War Talk. Moving towards another novelist, that is Kiran Desai. So Kiran Desai is also a very famous name in the world of novel and literature. There are many of the remarkable work done by Kiran Desai. So the very first that comes in our mind, which is very famous, and even many of you must have heard about the novel Inheritance of Loss. And another one is India Pack. Next, which we will talk about, is Kiran Nagarkar. So the famous work done by the Kiran Nagarkar is God's Little Soldier and Bombay. So the topics which we discussed till now, I hope you must have understand that what exactly the scenario in India, or what was the scenario in India in the world of novel and literature. So topics, we are done with this topic now, and later we will be discussing about some other topic like the elements of the novel, and also the important parts, as we discussed about the elements, then why these elements are important, that also we are going to discuss in the another lecture. So thank you.